So now that we know how to listen to events and how to run some code when an event occurs, the next step is that we want to change the content below these buttons. So here, this content area, we want to update it whenever a button is pressed, and we want to show different content down there. And for that, we can go back to the app component file, to the app.jsx file, because in there, it's below this menu area where I want to output my dynamic content, so the content that depends on which button was pressed. But here we of course have custom components. We don't have the built-in button component here. And therefore, of course, in order to set and update this dynamic content, we first of all need to listen to clicks on our custom button. Well, for that, it's important to keep in mind that our custom buttons, like all custom components, in the end just wrap native HTML elements, native JSX elements to be precise. So built-in components provided by React. And those built-in buttons have the built-in onClick prop, for example. Therefore, in order to make our own tab buttons clickable, what we ultimately want to do is we want to set the value for this onClick prop on this built-in button from outside our custom component, from inside the app component, in this case here to be precise. So it would be nice if we could, for example, set an onClick prop on our custom tab button, and then in the end accept a function here as a value, the function that should be triggered when that button is clicked. But that function, which we set on this onClick prop, should then in the end be forwarded to the built-in element, which does have this real onClick prop that's built in, and where React will make sure that the function you provide as a value will get triggered. Well, and to achieve this, what we can do is we can simply accept a prop here that could be named onClick, using object destructuring here to get access to that prop. And since it's our own custom component, this here could be called anything. The children prop, as you learned, is special. It's provided by React and it must be named children, but that's basically the only prop where you don't have a choice. All other props on your own custom components can be named whatever you want, and therefore we could wait for a prop called onClick here, but we could also name it just click or maybe onSelect or anything like this. And here, to make it clear that this name is up to you, I'll name it onSelect, and I'll deliberately start with on and then select here, because that's another convention you'll see a lot in React projects, that props that should in the end receive a function that will be triggered upon an event should start with on. Starting with on here makes it clear that this prop should be set to a function that will ultimately be triggered based on some event, whatever that event may be. It can be a click on some internal button, as we plan to do it here, but it could also be some HTTP request that finished. Anything you need. But here the goal is to use this onSelect prop, and therefore the function that should be set as a value on this prop as a value for the onClick prop here. So therefore now we can cut this handleClick function here, and we can therefore now go to the place where we're using the tab button component and set this onSelect prop. And I'll therefore now add this handleClick function again, or maybe we should now name it handleSelect to be in line with that prop name I chose down there. And I'll update the text and just also say selected in there, so that we really see that it's coming from this function. And it's now this function which will be set as a value for onSelect. And what we're therefore doing in the end here is we're passing a pointer at this handle select function. We're passing the function as a value, you could say, to the onSelect prop. And in our custom component, we're then in the end forwarding, you could say, that function to the onClick prop. And therefore, when this button is clicked, ultimately, it's this handle select function in the app component that will be triggered. And this is a super common and important pattern. Therefore, now with that, we can set this for all our tab buttons. And if we now save this and open these developer tools again, we therefore now see Hello World selected whenever we click a button. And therefore at this point we of course didn't gain a lot because we were able to output something in the console before as well. But we're now prepared to also change this dynamic content here in the app component, because we're now reacting to that click event in the end in that same component where we then want to update the content. Reacting just inside of that tab button component would not be enough, because from in there we wouldn't have access to this JSX code that includes this content. Now, with this pattern of setting a function as a value for a prop on a custom component, we are in the position to update some data that will affect this JSX code though.